Yeah. Coming.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to MDIB TV, where MDIB stands for My Degree is Black. We're in the building. We do not have enough people to do the cha-cha slide yet, nor the electric slide, nor the wobble. But we will be getting there shortly. But while we're here, we're not gonna waste no time because y'all not gonna get on us about being on sleepy time. We got some great people on on the show right now. And so we're going to introduce them shortly. But first, we're going to check this echo out real quick. And we're going to have John tell us about what my degree is black is.
Absolutely. So, yeah, let's do that. Thank y'all. People appreciate you. So my name is Jay Albert Nichols. I'm the other half of My Degree is Black. Super excited about today. To this evening's conversation. It's gonna be like an old-fashioned homecoming, which is what part of the vibe of My Degree is Black. We want to change the narratives, those negative stigmas and stereotypes that are associated with our prestigious Black institutions, many of which are being represented here today. And we do that by sharing your stories, because who better to tell us about the Black experience at an HBCU or the HBCU experience period than the people that have gone there, right? So we want to change that narrative by telling your stories and celebrating our culture, because what we do all know is Black people control the cool. Facts.
Everything what he just said, I'm with it. I'm with it. So we still waiting on the party to start, but we'll be the first ones at the party today. First of all, I just want to say, hi, y'all doing all right? All I guess y'all doing good.
Yeah, doing real good.
Yes, happy to be here.
Bless.
But we got some legacy on here. You know, when I left Prairie, everybody knew who Dr. Frazier was. I'm pretty sure where you guys are, everybody know who you all are too. So that's good stuff. I like it. John, I think you got a special co-host moderator for us that you want to introduce, though.
Yeah. So we have the wonderful Kendra Waters, who we will let kick off our Raised and Made real quick, so we can introduce you to these wonderful melanated faces that y'all see in front of you. So we'll start with Kendra, go over to Sydney, come back down to Shanette, Josh, and then hit Greg. So if y'all could do that, and then Kendra is going to get all in our business and kind of kick off this state of Black education and how we feel about our babies and ourselves. So tell us, Kendra, Raised and Made. So Raised is where you from, Made is the university that made you.
I'm with it. Hey, everybody. I am Kendra Waters, raised in the great city of Lake Jackson, Texas, 288 South, the city of enchantment. If you don't know, you need to know. Attended Brazowood High School there, was a cheerleader, involved in a whole bunch of stuff. But then I was made at the Howard University in Washington, D.C. My degree is Black twice, both for my undergraduate degree in communications and my degree in education with a focus on curriculum instruction. That's me.
Boom, like it. Sydney, tell us about yourself.
Hello. My name is Sydney Williams. I was raised here in the amazing city of Houston, Texas. You know what I'm saying? H-Town. I attended North Shore Senior High School on the east side, and I was made at the #1 HBCU, Spelman College, where I obtained my bachelor's in psychology. I did go on to get my master's in school counseling, but not at an HBCU. But I'm happy to be here, and that's exactly who I am.
The ambassador to Ghana, the Houston ambassador for Ghana.
I am Shanette Prince. I was raised here in Houston, Texas. I went to Forest Brook High School in North Forest. Yes. I attended the Texas Southern University, where I marched in the Ocean of Soul marching band. And then I went on to Florida A&M University and got my master's. And that's me.
Hey, that's what's up. Welcome. Josh.
What's going on?
Just pause real quick. Y'all see all Josh Asians. He got certifications, educations, commemorations, all of them is on
on the wall, you know.
On the wall, boy, decorated.
This the man cave office, you know. My name is Joshua Grimes. I was raised in Beaumont, Texas, a graduate of Ozan High School. And then I pursued my degree at the Prairie View A&M University. And I got my bachelor's in mathematics, and I currently teach as 7th and 8th grade in Humble Middle School.
Josh.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Greg. I'm looking at your name, but thinking your name and looking down at Greg. Greg, holla at us.
You're muted.
There we go.
He was giving it good too.
There I go. What's good people? Great to be here. Born and raised in Houston, Texas. I made it.
You know.
I just want to see if y'all was in the house.
We got on here late, so no, we did not.
Major Business Administration and Kinesiology Health Science. I am currently the Dean of Students and Culture at Kip Sunnyside High School. And hey, I'm happy to be here.
Good. Happy to have you. So,
John, I want to interrupt you real quick.
Yes, sir.
I want to interrupt because we got enough to do the cha-cha. We need 2 more on the live feed to do the electric slide. And once we get to 30, we're going to wobble. So tell your friends, tell your mama, tell everybody, we need 2 more people, electric slide, and we good to go. I do want people that's here, that's watching, please let us know where you from, what university you went to. They went to 18-1 real quick. I don't know what's going on with the with y'all Wi-Fi or whatever. The 17 people dropped out because their Wi-Fi is with, I don't know who, they got a hotspot. But it's okay. But if you are in here, let us know what university you went to. And I'm gonna let y'all go. I'm gonna let this go back up because I did have an icebreaker question, but I'm gonna let Kendra go. That's why I interrupted, because I had a real question about who would be your favorite teacher, Black teacher, but we'll come back to that.
Hey man, let's get it in. Let's get it in.
Okay, all right.
Break the ice, brother. Break the ice.
All right, here we go. So, who would you rather be your teacher? If you don't know who the person is, it's okay. Just let me know. Would you rather Mr. Clark be a teacher? Would you rather Mr. Dwayne Wayne or Dr. Dwayne Wayne? Would you rather Coach Carter, Annalise Keating, or Lydia Grant? Y'all don't know who Lydia Grant is, huh?
You knew that when you put it on that paper.
Lydia Grant was Debbie Allen. It's Debbie Allen. She played Lydia Grant on Fame.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Gotcha. Or Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey, yes.
Oh no.
So there we go. Who would be your favorite teacher?
I'm going with Dr. Wade. Going with him. Yes, because Dr. Wayne had been there as well, and he had experienced it as a student and as a professor. So I also liked how he held you accountable, but it was fun, and he would have some different pop-ups. So I'm going with Dwayne. Yeah.
All right.
Coach Carter? Definitely not. But you know what? My response may be the unpopular opinion as well. I think I'm gonna have to go with Mr. Clark. So he was a hard hitter. He didn't take no stuff. He wasn't playing no games, but he definitely instilled some good qualities and character. He built character, and that's something I think everybody could use a little bit of somebody like that in their life. So I definitely, because as long as you did what you had to do, you didn't have to see that side of him. So I definitely think I would want to have Mr. Clark.
Right. So we got one for Mr. Clark and one for Dwayne Wayne as your teacher. What we got?
I'm on with Dwayne Wade. Yes, Dwayne Wade. Yes, he was young. He was energetic. He had just graduated. He was charismatic. He was handsome.
Yeah, he was married. He was married. I knew you was gonna say something like that.
You can look. You can look. It's okay.
Yes. Are we talking about? Oh, you said teacher, so we in high school? Because I was thinking professor.
You're right.
Yes. So yes, that's the class you want to go to. Do all your homework. Okay. All the assignments. Yes, professor.
No, see, that's why you asked about high school, because you was like, should I get D Hall? I don't know. Right.
Had to make sure.
Okay. All right. Professor Dr. Grimes, what you got, man?
I'm gonna go with Mr. Clark. I'm kind of like the school disciplinary as well, so just instilling that structure and getting the kids to that successful place by any means necessary. Coach Carter would have been, on my list too, because I was an athlete, so you needed that push and that drive, and young Black males do, relate to their coaches more than anything. They'll talk to their coaches and they'll listen to their coaches. So I would go with those two for my picks.
All right.
Cool. He is Yeah, I got to say the same thing. Coach Carter, and for being a former athlete, and I would have to go with Mr. Clark because being in administration now, knowing that what he had to deal with, some of the same issues I have to deal with inner city kids. So yeah, that's probably what my pick.
You're gonna break the rules and pick two. It's okay.
I mean, he did that.
I'm going with.
I had to give Coach Carter some love, man.
Yeah,
Nobody wanted to give Coach Carter any love, man.
Y'all dog Coach Carter before he even got a chance.
Yeah, y'all didn't give Coach Carter no love, man.
I'm going with Debbie.
I was gonna say Debbie. Lydia, you said Lydia Grant because I was in the band, so I know all about the arts. I was gonna set up and like do it. Fame, I want to live. Yes.
I'm going where the party is. I feel like y'all named all of these people. They gonna want to get life lessons and all that, and I appreciate that. That's great. But my favorite professor is like I need a turn up. Like I need a good time.
Every class.
Man, look, every day that I'm here is a hard day. So I need a party. You know, I got enough all of that. That's me, but that's cool. Y'all gonna be wanting to come in my class. I'm be trying to sneak in on them days. See, I come party. We're gonna be the class always doing it up. It's cool.
I was wondering if anybody was gonna say Annalise.
No.
I'm all right.
No degree for me. I'm out.
I didn't get away with what?
So as we got to say goodbye to Kendra Waters soon. So before we do, kick off this conversation about the state of Black education. Get us around. Frame this out for us.
I'm here for it. So tonight, just so everyone knows who's viewing us and then everybody who's in the room, we are in a really unique space right now. It's not even just about COVID. We are approaching where schools are opening again. And I mean, school is starting. It's the first day of school for some people and others have been in school for a couple of weeks now. But the conversation tonight, just wanted to kick it off with looking at the pandemic perspective, looking at our different perspectives for where are we based on pre and post, well, not post, but pre-COVID and now COVID. What is the state of Black education? Our students, from a community perspective, student perspective. If you're a parent, what is your perspective? And then lastly, even moving to a political perspective, what are your thoughts on that? Where are we as far as not just the state of education? I'd like to challenge you to consider what is the condition of us, because people can actually begin to digest it a little bit more when they're saying, are we in good condition, bad condition, a little, shine it up and make us look good? Or do we need a complete overhaul to where we are with education? So I open it up to anybody to get their thoughts.
Let me put a disclaimer out there too. As we've talked through all these weeks on My Degree is Black TV, we know that Black is not a monolith. So however you deal with the Black student or Black education, address it as that, so that we know and we continue to let the people know that we aren't just what society likes to show of the media as the Black community is the lowest of the low. And we know that we're a spectrum of people. So just make sure you address how you are seeing the state of Black education, as Kendra did well doing that. Thank you.
For sure.
I mean, y'all don't all have to go.
Don't all go at once at the party. Well, I'll go. I'll speak. I didn't really say. I did share what my background was. I have a degree in radio, TV, and film from Howard, and then I also have a degree in elementary education from Howard. But I currently don't work in an actual school district. I work for a government entity, and I'm in an administrative role that makes opportunities and programs possible for children of color in different areas. And for me, the condition that we're currently having to deal with is the barrier of our Black children not having access to internet access. There's a lot of issues there. And so things that we want to provide to them, parents are having to figure out, hey, I know we need to do online classes. I know my child needs to finish this work and they need to be in their seat at their appointed time, but I have 4 children and I have 1 computer. So I'm also trying to balance being a mother in the home, or if it's a 2-parent home, I'm trying to figure out those things. So the perspective I'm coming from is a mixture of looking at what the pandemic is, how it's affecting us, is it's actually exposing a lot of stuff, and how we have given attention, far too much attention, on getting some tangible things like clothes, and we may not have necessarily been looking at some of the other things that we may have needed to provide for children. And I'm not talking about parents. I'm talking about the community itself. Where do we need to shift our focus to make sure that children, now that we are in a global pandemic, still can be successful, even though they physically can't get into a classroom? Many of the children that we work with in Harris County, they not only don't have computers, and this is not even children that Jamian has said are those that are more in poverty-stricken areas. These are middle-class children. That's just not what they have. They don't have necessarily really consistent Wi-Fi. The richest person could have Wi-Fi issues. I mean, everybody in the world is trying to do things virtually. So it's shifted the perspective of the things that we're doing. Are they truly inviting? Are they innovative? Are we being intentional in our reach? Because your perspective can't be so laser focused that you're only seeing what's in front of you. You really have to expand yourself so you see what the needs are of those that are around you. And for me, in my position with work, and then just my own personal perspective from what I learned while being at a HBCU, it's important to build community. Absolutely. I'm only as good as that person that's next to me. And I can't try to move myself up and forget that I also need to reach not down, but reach out to help the people that are around me. So that's my thought in a nutshell on all of the perspectives.
Yeah. Love it, love it, love it.
Y'all go hop in. Okay. Well, I'll go next. I was gonna yield the floor, but as an educator, yeah, it is kind of hard right now. I've been back at work since Monday, and we will be getting students on Tuesday virtually. We would have been doing face-to-face, but we have a board that is over our district that may or may not even have kids, and that vote is that vote, and we have to do what they say. But to kind of piggyback off of what she's saying, the kids not having internet, not having laptops, things like that, the number of students in the class. But because I am an in-class teacher, my biggest issue is about the learning gaps, and how are we going to actually make sure that these kids are successful. My job as a teacher is to make sure these kids are successful and get to the next grade, not just the next grade, but to high school, to college and beyond. Whether, we're getting them to be military ready, whether they're going to be workforce ready, whether they're going to be college ready. That's my job as an educator. And I'm looking at, we've been out since March. So there's a whole half a semester that these kids, missed out on. It's not that, not to say that the teachers wasn't doing a good job or wasn't working, but I can't get that connection. I can't build that relationship, and I can't ensure that they're successful when I may have had 40% getting on the computer, 25%, actually doing the assignments. So I just look at it as the gaps that we're going to have to fill in some kind of way, and I don't have a solution for it, which is kind of eating at me as an educator. Like, how can I ensure that they'll be ready? How can I make sure that they'll be successful? Yes, we passed out laptops. Yes, we got the hotspots, but as you said earlier, it could be 4 students in one household with one laptop, because the district's not going to give you 4. They're going to say, oh, well, you have one, make do. And then now these kids are going to start online. Last year was a little different because I knew my students and we could go virtually because I knew I had that relationship with them by then. I knew who was going to work, who wasn't going to work. I knew, the students. I'm coming into a brand new year not knowing these kids, and I got 160 kids, and how am I supposed to know who's my hard worker, who's my, my kid that I'm going to have to push a little bit more. My campus is Title I. And so that means I'm dealing with Black and brown babies. These are the kids that need that extra push, that need those Mr. Clarks, and if they're not getting it at home, I don't see them every day because we're virtual, other than getting on this Zoom call if they get on it, if they have access. It's a whole bunch of question marks.
Mhm.
So it's just, for me, it's just kind of like my brain is like all over the place, because my main goal is to get them to the next place, get them to that successful state, so that they one day can, go to Prairie View and graduate, but it's just kind of hard to, I don't have the solution right now. And it's just bugging me. Like, I'm a problem solver, and I can't solve it right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult point, and like probably the spot that almost all educators are in. I don't believe that at this current moment there is a right or wrong answer. I really don't. So there are a lot of issues and concerns that we all have. I definitely share the same sentiments as you guys. And as a counselor, I think about the educational gaps that our kids are up against. I think about what our kids rely on a school for. We feed some of those kids, and some of those kids don't eat.
Mm-hmm.
They're not at school. We feed them breakfast, we feed them lunch, we give them snacks. We have programs where we're sending them home with food over the course of the weekend. I run that program at my school. So in thinking about those things, some of these kids rely on the sports, not just so that they go play a football game or a basketball game, but that's the only decent interaction that they're getting is like at a school setting. And the social aspect that they're lacking now, having to attend school from home, is also a really big factor, because that to me is just as important as the educational piece. And because you're missing out on having those, potentially, depending on your home life, those positive influences, those people that are going to build you up. They might be at home where they're being torn down or ignored and neglected every single day, and they come to school for us to love on them. And they're not getting that. And we are definitely at a major disadvantage right now, because we are about to start a school year. Our school doesn't start till September 8th with a group of kids we've never seen before. My campus is solely a 10th grade campus. So we're getting a whole new group of 9th grade students. I've never seen you before. You've never seen me. I've never met your parents. I don't know anything about you outside of your transcript. And that is going to put us at a disadvantage, because kids may not be as trusting, because you don't have me right there at your beck and call every single day. You can't come in my office and sit down and just have a chit chat and get to know me. So there's so many different things that I feel like we're up against that is going to really, really hurt our Black and our brown kids. I am also at a Title I school, so that's something. Our main focus is, how are we going to help these kids, this group of kids that society already says, hey, you're not going to be successful, you're not going to be anything, you're good for nothing. How are we going to be able to build them up? And we can't. They're not right here with us, And there's so many things that I want to give, I want to provide, I want to do for them, but it's 10 times more difficult from my house behind a computer. I can't force
it's a lot.
I can't force you to participate in our counselor's corner where we're trying to get to know you. I can't force you to do the assignments, or maybe you don't know how. Your parents don't know how. Most of these kids, their parents they don't have more than a high school diploma. And so they're at a disadvantage there. It's just so many pieces that just really, really honestly give me anxiety. It stressed me out.
And you have that new math. I have a couple of friends also, their children are starting kindergarten. My godson, kindergarten. And you're thinking the socialization type, social interaction, being able to be comfortable and speaking with people, moving. We're in this space of true isolation. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and we ended the conversation with, we have made the assumption, meaning the world, everyone has made this assumption that we sent children home. Hey, just go and work on your computer. Go ahead and do some online classes, thinking that home is the most ideal place for them to be. And I'm reminded of this poem that it's called, I Ain't Got a Pencil. And this young man who was given the story about how his mother had to go to work early. He had to get his brother ready for school. He rushed and just made the bus in time. And he gets there so they can have a hot breakfast. And the lights were out before they left school, so they really couldn't iron their clothes. So their uniforms are wrinkled. And by the time he's able to get his brother in class and him get in class, he sits in his seat and his teacher starts yelling at him, all because he ain't got a pencil. There's so many layers of things that are affecting these children that the fact that the teachers, the educators, I applaud you, because you're not only having to deal with educating these children, you're dealing with the social areas, the emotional learning of all of them, and your support is to be celebrated because you are helping them thrive. So if nobody else celebrates you as a collaborator on the other side of trying to make some things move, I just think we need to do a better job of celebrating those people who are really in the trenches, making sure that we're not extending that achievement gap. So I know the conversation is going to continue. So John, I'm gonna throw it back to you before I leave. I have another, I'm moving and shaking. That's how we do.
Yeah.
And I see them all in the comments. So thanks, my people, for showing up and sharing.
Absolutely. Kendra's going to go teach a whole mentor leadership class that she got, which is legit. So we have to bring her back so she can talk about that, and share that piece. So thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. And we'll see you on the flip side at a homecoming, sooner than later, hopefully. Probably
absolutely. Pound on the side that's brown, my brother. I'll see y'all later.
So I want to ask Jeanette with regard to the condition of Black education. One of the reasons when we talked about bringing guests on, we talked about Jeanette is because Jeanette has been on the administrative, so to speak, side of education, but she has two brilliant Black boys that she completely advocates for. And in her advocating for those two Black boys, she's advocating for Black communities and brown communities across the board. But as a parent, and even outside of COVID, right? So if we move beyond COVID, we just talk about what education for our Black communities, our children, our adults, everybody, what does that look like? Specific, I guess, maybe to the way you advocate or why you advocate or what you've experienced in the education space as you work with growing and raising two young Black kings.
Great question. So when John asked me, he was like, "Oh, I want you to come on." I was like, "But I'm not in education." But I educate every day because, like you said, I have two brilliant Black boys. And so for me, the state of education in, Black and brown communities, I don't like to lead with the negative, just because I think that we have to begin to look at the assets that we do have and not always look at it from a deficit perspective, right? So I think that, our schools are doing the best that they can with the resources that are provided. I think that COVID-19 has shown a light. And so now people are seeing the inequities in education, from this school to this school, this neighborhood to this neighborhood. And the thing that I don't think I've heard anybody say is just how are parents, right? How are parents going to maneuver this for their children? I applaud all educators, the whole school districts. I know that it's a very tough job. I worked at a charter school for several years. Again, I was not in the classroom. I was on I did fundraising. So that's on the administrative side, but it's really not with, classroom management or grades. I wasn't responsible for any of that. I was responsible for making sure that we had the money that we needed to build more schools and to have, the resources that the kids needed. But what I will say is that I think that one of the things that we're lacking, and I think, I don't know if you all have seen this, but the parental involvement that should be there, that needs to be there, I think that schools have done a little bit of a disservice. And so everything, I think, has been put on the teachers and the schools, and we've forgotten that there is a whole community of people who have to support these children. And so for me, I've always, and it's, my mother and my high school, I remember the high school I went to, I remember our parents coming to the school all the time to advocate for us. So it was natural for me. My oldest son is going into his senior year this year. I have my youngest son is going into the 7th grade. And I've been advocating since 2nd grade for my oldest child. You know, it was at one point I remember them saying, oh, you know, he had ADHD. And we did medication for like a week and he broke out. And I was like, we're not doing that no more. We're going to have to find, you know, another way to get through this. But I've always made it a point to know what's going on at the school, right? So when I hear that, like, you know, students don't have computers and there's not Wi-Fi, and it kind of breaks my heart because that's not been my experience. And I also understand that I am very privileged, right? I have 2 degrees. My mother, like, I'm not a first generation college student. I went to college. I have a sister and brother who, you know, we've gone to college. And so I know that I come from a place of privilege. When I say, no, we have Wi-Fi, I made sure 2 years ago that both boys have Google Chrome computers. You know, like I have a computer. So when school, you know, we had just come back from Ghana. So like we travel internationally. So I guess I'm a little removed from not having resources. And so I think my perspective, I don't know. I'm kind of a little torn in really, if I'm just being vulnerable with y'all and I'm just like, dang, it's all on Facebook. But like I don't understand, and y'all like take this because I'm really struggling here. Like I don't understand why or how the kids don't have computers, or why or how there's not internet, right? Like I'm struggling with, I understand like the economic side of that, but as a parent who has children who are in school, and I know the importance of them having, you know, the resources that they need, I guess I'm just struggling with why the students don't have that. And again, working in fundraising, knowing that their more affluent peers have those resources. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that they have at home. And so I guess I don't know. I struggle with like, why don't I, like, to me, that's basic. Having a computer in the home, having internet in the home, to me, that's kind of basic. And so when I hear that they're, you know, the kids don't have it, I'm just like, okay, so then how are they global citizens, and how are they finding out information about, you know, what's going on in the world, and how are they researching for the classes that they're in? Like how does any of that take place pre-COVID? You know, if they have the new math like Khan Academy, that kind of stuff is online. Those free resources to help them in their development, all of those things are online. So pre-COVID, they weren't getting any of this. And now post-COVID, you know, what I'm hearing is they're definitely not getting any of this. And I'm just struggling with, like, our babies are, like, we still at ground zero.
Yeah. I think that Greg, you're in the administration space of education, like for our kids. I think you may be able to shed some light there, or provide some insight.
Yeah, I just listening to all you guys and ladies. I'm sorry, but been in administration. I was in the classroom for 7 years, and I've been in administration for the last 5. We just got through doing a needs assessment, and when we got the results back, like 45% of the kids didn't have proper technology to do online or learning virtually. One of the biggest things that I've noticed since moving to administration 5 years ago is when you get to see the behind the scenes and how the money works and things of that nature. The biggest issue and the fastest way for us to close the gap is the systemic conditions that exist, more so than the organizational conditions, if you know what I mean. Systemic condition being is that the way the funding is set up to be divided per capita per student creates the inequities in education. In a suburban school, you can have 4,000 or 5,000 kids easily. In the inner city, not so much. And if they're given a certain amount of money per kid, and if you're in a charter system, you don't get the tax money either. But no matter where you are, like the easiest way to close the gap is by being able to provide kids with programs. There are schools that provide their kids with iPads. There are schools that provide their kids with Chromebooks. There are schools that provide parents with Wi-Fi's and the hotspots, I'm sorry. But in the inner city, especially in communities like Sunnyside, South Park, and some areas on the Southwest side, it's money. It's that the schools are underfunded. I think we have enough intelligent Black people to put systems together to create solutions to close academic gaps. I sit around the table with them all the time. So we don't have a lack of knowledge or ways that we can't close this gap or create solutions. It's really when you sit down at the end of the day, it comes back to the dollar. And because we don't have the money, we try to be as innovative as possible to create systems and things of that nature, using the Khan Academies and trying to use different softwares, or trying to get teachers to do asynchronous videos for kids to go back and watch and rewatch and try to find other ways to create interventions. But at the end of the day, like you look at the schools who are like high performing and high achievement, they don't have a funding issue. And if we can get it to the point to where we can erase resources, because that's really when you're in an impoverished neighborhood, like some of the parents are working 2 jobs. And when you start to talk about, you got kids coming, and I had a couple kids, one kid hadn't taken a hot bath in 4 or 5 months. So there's no way, like they don't have gas. They haven't had gas to have a hot bath for 4 or 5 months. There's no way that parent can afford to get them a laptop. You know what I mean? Like there's some issues, some underlying issues with just poverty, within itself that creates that makes it more challenging. And so I think that we can close the gap if we find ways to change the conditions within the system for funding education. I think it should be a needs base, not a per kid base, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? If this school in the inner city needs $5 million to function, then don't give them $2.5 million because this is the enrollment. Give them the $3 to $5 million that they need in order to become a high performing school. And then what the TEA wants to do is they say, oh, okay, this school is low performing, let's shut them down. And so like SB2 bill, it's basically a 3-strike rule, whether it's financial or academic. If you have 3 consistent years where you don't meet the standard in any one of them, they have grounds to shut you down. So that's the rule. So that's why, if you notice, from the late 90s all the way to I say about 2014, most of the Black charter schools have closed down with the new rule. So
and that was because they were why have so many of them closed down, Gregory?
For 2 reasons. One, they tried to implement a lot of the Black charters tried to add additional staff, right? And so they ended up in the red from a financial standpoint.
Okay.
But they did that. They front loaded, bringing in subcontractors, maybe bringing in math specialists, maybe bringing in reading intervention specialists, or bringing in different people, hoping one that the academic gap closes and that they can meet the AYP. And then you have on the flip side of that. So if I'm in the red, then I get a strike, even if I meet AYP. And then if I don't meet AYP, but financially I'm good, I get another strike. So it's like there's almost like they're in a lose-lose situation. And so I think if we can remove some of the systemic conditions surrounded with funding schools, I think that we can really find solutions quicker.
Man.
I do want to comment on that really quick. I definitely agree 100% with what you're saying, but I do think that there's another side to it as well. And I know that what I'm about to say does not apply to all of our students in need, but definitely a good number. I know that we've all seen the student that parent says, oh, well, my child doesn't have access to this. My child needs the school to do this, 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 and this, and this. But the child is also coming to school in the newest J's, got the latest cell phone, latest technology in regards to that, but is looking for, I think it's about priorities for some of these parents. And I know that Shanette asked the question about why, like, it's like almost like common sense that a child should have a Chromebook at home or a laptop or something. That's what we like to think, but that's not necessarily the case. And in a perfect world, that would be it. But some parents are able to provide certain things, but choose to put their finances towards other things and then look to the school and say, well, y'all are the school, so y'all are responsible for this. And I think that's something that we try not to address, or we try to act like we don't see and turn a blind eye to, but it's definitely there. It's very present, and that's something else that we have to be able to discuss. Some parents' priorities just aren't where they need to be.
So
there's no accountability there either, because as a school, we do still have to meet their needs, but there's no accountability there for that parent. And we end up assuming the role of a parent in a lot of cases because the parent themselves are not doing what they should be doing.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree. I think it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Like, you have some parents who don't prioritize. You have some parents don't prioritize, other parents don't have, right? And I think it's I don't know what the proportion is, but you're right. You're absolutely right. And we got to give the whole teachers account.
I wanna. There's a young lady in the that's been in our comments, Imani Brown, and she's first generation. And she was saying how hard it is for her as a first generation student, college student, I'm assuming. And so I'm gonna post her comment here. Just to get briefly, like 30 seconds or so, like what your thoughts on that. She says support from my family because sometimes they do not. So I asked her, what's the hardest part about being first generation student? She says support from my family because sometimes they do not understand what you go through at school. Being alone, keeping grades up, stressors, working, etc. I had to verbally communicate to my mother that what she was doing was not enough for me.
Wow.
Like,
I mean, being at a Title I campus, that's a story that we hear a lot, you know. Like I said, I'm in the classroom and I force my kids to make presentations and stand up and get those leadership skills, those communication skills. And I've had kids stand up and break down and, like, you know, I love coming to school because I'm escaping something at home. And it kind of brings back to the whole COVID piece. I have some students that have been home since March, and the home is not their safe place. The school is. Right. And so when we come to making these decisions of opening school face-to-face or being virtual, it's you're kind of just teeter-totting on the seesaw, like, do we go to school or do we not? And so my district is actually letting the parents decide. And you got some parents who want the kids at home, not for educational reasons, not for safety reasons, but because they're the oldest and they're the babysitter and they're the chef and they're the laundry folder and the grass cutter, because they're the oldest in the house and they may have 2 or 3 other siblings. So that student now becomes a parent, you know what I'm saying, at a young age, but it's not what they're actually wanting. They're wanting to go to school.
Yeah.
And Imani, I know that she mentioned being a first generation student and some of the struggles there, because I am the first person in my family to graduate from college as well. So I definitely understand what you're saying, where you say, like, while you're away at school, there are certain things that you feel like your parents or family and friends just don't get. And what it took for me was just realizing that there is that gap and acknowledging there are going to be some things that I deal with that are just part of being a college student, that because my parents did not graduate from college, they won't get it. And that's okay. And there's a certain amount of growth that's in that as well. There's a certain amount of maturity that's going to come in that as well. So truly just, continue to communicate openly and let your mom know, like, hey, I'm dealing with this and this is what this looks like, but you're going to have to explain and make it plain, because it is a situation where she may or may not understand, and she's trying, but some things she just may not get because you're living that experience, not your mom. So
yeah, I was going. I'm sorry, Tiffany.
Continue to be open about it, but also understand I have to be okay with sometimes walking away and saying, okay, there are some things she's just not going to get, and that's okay.
Yeah, and when they don't get it, they might be like, "Oh, you think you're smarter than me now, and you got to deal with that."
And that's going to happen too. That is definitely going to happen too.
But look,
and that wasn't even a joke. That's for real.
That's we're thinking right now. So.
Yeah, it'll definitely happen. But there's a certain sense of security that you have to have in yourself, and understand that's not the case, so that you don't start to beat yourself up and feel bad about your accomplishments too, because that's something I also struggled with. So, there are so many different facets to that, but understand that in that there will be so much growth.
Right. Yeah. So before you give too much away, because we're going to make a transition into the college piece, Sydney. So before you give too much away, I do want to just say one real quick thing, and then Jay, we can make that transition. To those parents, or about parents who have those kids that are raising the other kids, or maybe the chef or cooking or whatever those things might be. I'd like to also throw out there, right, like that part of that may be because that parent is working 18 hours, 20 hours in a day, just to have food for them to eat. So I can't be there to cook the food. So my oldest is cooking the food. Is it right for my oldest to cook the food? Is that what's supposed to be their responsibility, right? So for me, I could say my personal opinion is no, right? But the reality of it is it's a situation and the kids have to eat. So do I not work? We don't eat. Do I go work and then the food just sit in the refrigerator? Or I give them a bunch of like McDonald's every day, right? Like, so having to navigate all of those different layers, right? And I think that it's Greg, to your point, I do agree, like there's, half a dozen in one hand, 6 in the other, what have you. But I think, it might be actually another hand and a few more hands, and a couple of the ones in this hand are also in this hand, right? Like, so Jay, to your point, we aren't monoliths, right? But even in our layers, there are sub layers of those, right? Like when you peel a piece of an onion and part of it is still stuck on the first ring, part of it is still stuck. Think about saran wrap. When you're unwrapping the saran wrap and it splits, and then you got to take that little bitty shrivel. Like, and maybe terrible metaphors. I'm a tourist to speak in metaphors, but to say that, like, it's not always black and white or the primary colors, right? Like sometimes you drawn with all 1,000 in that super big Crayola set, or 720 with the sharpener on the back. Sometimes it's all of those colors, So anyway.
Yeah. So I like metaphors, man. I'm cool with it. But Sydney mentioned the word that came out was accomplished. But actually, before we go there, we talked about this being a fun show. Can you put that cup back up, John? So this is another icebreaker question as we go into the second segment. So all of y'all walk around with a cup at homecoming like this or different. I don't know what you walk around with, but you walk around with something. I don't have to go to your homecoming to know that you're walking around with something. As you're walking around with that cup, you see 1, 2, 3, 4 of your students that you told about your university actually at your homecoming. Do you turn away or do you speak? And you've had 2 of those cups. What's your answer?
Well, it depends what was in
Come
the
on
cup.
now. I'm not playing with you right now.
And how strong that was, because
this actually happened to me last year, by the way.
What was the question again?
You know the question. Josh, you answered since it happened to you. What happened?
Hold on, let me drink again.
Okay.
So her mom and her dad were PV alum, and homecoming, I'm not Mr. Grimes. I'm Josh on the yard, And I heard, "Hey, Mr. Grimes," and I'm like, "Oh snap!" Trying not to turn around. And it was one of my students in my first period class, and I was just, trying to get it together, like, "Hey, how you doing?" But luckily, her parents, they were on the same level as me, so they was like, "Oh, I remember him from open house." I was like, "Yeah, all right, See you on that next field trip, you know.
Okay.
So, I got it.
I know what the rest of y'all do. It's cool. That's why I'm a tutor. I don't have to worry about none of that. They see me at their house. I'm in t-shirt and jeans. I'm just filling the gaps with what y'all laying down. So I'm good to go.
Yeah, I'm turning and running for sure.
Okay.
That's happening. I think you should stay and speak.
That's what I think.
I am
Homecoming.
Boys, they come to homecoming every year, and we walk around the yard, and they've seen teachers, like they go to homecoming. Oh, I want to see so and so. I want to see something because they know they're going to be there, so they're looking for them, and it's a part of the college experience. Like they know Isaiah knows not to drink, but he also knows that he's at homecoming. This is what happens at homecoming. Your teachers are adults, and what they do. Like he knows that he wants to go to an HBCU because he comes to homecoming. It's so much fun.
Sydney, let me ask you. Sydney, let me ask you this real quick. If you were at a tailgate, let me be petty. So if you were at a tailgate, Houston, Texas tailgate, right, or the barbecue cook-off or a rodeo festival, right, and you got the margarita or whatever, like everybody out here doing this thing, you out at your tailgate space and your kid came by, would you speak? Or you turn away still?
I'm gonna honestly probably avoid the student at all costs, and here's why. I love my kids and my kids love me. I like to think that my kids love me. However, I work at a high school. These kids think it's cute and funny to bring up the fact that they've seen you somewhere. And next thing you know, it's the talk of the town and it's in the hallways. So even if I'm not like on level 10, I could be at a 4 with my margarita, but it's going to become a whole thing. And there's just a certain persona that I need to uphold and upkeep while I'm at work. And I don't want kids to blur some of those lines. And some kids don't have the parents that are educating them and saying, hey, Miss Williams is grown and she can do, what she wants to do. And it's not your business to run and tell. All parents aren't that awesome.
Run tell that.
To explain that to their kids.
I've changed format a little bit at homecoming. So I usually run into kids at the game. Because while I love the post game, like I still love to go to the game. And so I never forget, kind of like Mr. Grimes, I'm literally, me and my wife, we're walking in, we're sitting down. All I hear is, Mr. Webb. Look up. And what I did was I went to go speak, but I set my adult beverage with my wife and then went up to go talk to the kid and the parents. The parents graduated from PV as well. So my new rule is don't drink at the game after dark. You can't see my cup anyway. So.
Bless y'all.
All right.
2 things I don't want to do is be a parent and be a teacher. So I appreciate y'all very much.
Hey, listen, I hear you, John, but I'm both. So here we go. So we're back at the HBCU now. So we are switching gears a little bit, and we still have some good questions coming in that we are going to try to get to as well. So I want to ask you guys about the HBCU. You guys are, like I said, achieved, accomplished, came up. You guys are accomplished individuals, and that you attended HBCUs. So I want you guys to tell us how you were introduced to your HBCU, how you were introduced to HBCUs, just period. Like, what was that thing that you knew about it?
Who's going first?
I'm going first.
Okay.
So, introduced to HBCUs when I moved to Houston, and I was attending Forest Brook High School in the marching band. So I had moved from Marshall, Texas, which is a small town in East Texas.
Oh, East Texas.
Corps style. I was in the band. We marched corps style. Then we moved to Houston, and at Forest Brook, what is that style of marching? Pump and drive, 8 to 5. We were a baby ocean of soul. So I was like, this is so new to me. This is like, oh my gosh. Coming from corps style, doing 8 to 5, like, oh wow, this is great. We're dancing. And everybody else at the school in the band, they already knew about the HBCUs, right? They knew about Southern, they knew about TSU and Prairie View. But prior to that, I had lived in California. So there were no, there are no HBCUs in California. There are no marching bands, nothing like that. So when I got to Marshall, got in the band, then moved to Houston, I was like, what is this? And that's how I got introduced to HBCUs. So I had a lot of the people in the band were going to Texas Southern. Our band director went to Southern University. So I had really just the pick of the litter. I wanted to attend, I applied to Spelman and Clark. Like I wanted to go to Atlanta. And my mother is a Texas Southern alum. And she was like, you're staying here and you're going to TSU. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was kind of I shouldn't say forced, but I was strongly encouraged to go to Texas Southern University. And then, from there, it was like, after that, I'm going to FAM. Like, I want to go to FAM. And that's how I ended up there. But my experience, had it not been for the band, I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Well, my story is a little similar. I am a big band head. I still have drumsticks.
Go.
I'm from Beaumont, so Beaumont Ozan, Beaumont Central was like basically PV versus TSU or PV versus Southern every Friday night, and so I actually had a band scholarship to Florida A&M University, and I was gonna go march out there, but Prairie View sent that academic scholarship, and I was like, I ain't going to PV. My older brother at PV, I'm tired of following him. PV and Lamar was the two places that was like not on my list. I didn't want to stay in Beaumont, and I didn't want to go to PV because my brother was there. And look at me now. I definitely say PV chose me. Like I didn't go to homecomings. My first day at PV was my brother moving. My second day at PV was my moving. Like no orientation, no summer programs. None of that. So people like say, well, you like super PV. How did you get there? And I was like, I don't know. PV chose me because I was going to Florida A&M. I told my mama they gonna waive out of state fees, thinking that was like real big, like they're gonna give me like a few thousand to play my drum. That's all I want to do anyway. And so yeah, PV sent that academic scholarship, and here I am. So that's how I got it at a HBCU. It was either I applied to 10 different schools, but when it came down to it, academically, I was where I wanted to be. No, I didn't march in the box. I didn't march at PV actually. I know people was like, "Oh, you had a band scholarship." By the time I told myself and decided to go to PV, band camp had already started and everything. I ended up in the STEM program. Got 11 hours that summer, so my marching career was over after that. I did announce one year, so. Little history. I am the last voice of the Marching Storm at Blackshear. So that last homecoming at Blackshear, I was announcing for the Marching Storm.
Nice. That's what's up. Good stuff.
For me, it was growing up in Houston. Of course, the Super Bowl for us was the Labor Day Classic. And so I think I was probably maybe 10, 11 years old. I got introduced I went to the Labor Day Classic, PV versus TSU, and I fell in love. Like, if it's a fashion show, it's a family reunion, it's a rivalry, it encompasses a lot, right? Like, you going to the Labor Day Classic, it's a lot. And like being in that environment at such a young age, I was like, wow, this is pretty dope. Now, this is back when it was at the Astrodome. And it was, but I like even, and this is something I didn't know if we were going to move toward, but by the time I was in high school and by the time I was getting ready to graduate, I wasn't quite sure if I was going to go to HBCU because I was ranked pretty high in my class. I graduated number 19. And a lot of the college counselors or the counselors, they were trying to push me to go to PWIs. And I got into UT and I got into, Pepperdine. I would have went to Pepperdine just to go to Malibu because the weather was 68 degrees. But I sat down with my my high school principal, who graduated from Prairie View A&M University, and after having a conversation with him, I was sold. And so nothing anybody else told me could make me change my mind from picking the HBCU. So yeah, that's kind of how, that's my story.
So I got like, oh, I'm sorry. Go, Cindy.
Oh, no. It's fine. We can do that.
You know what? It's good.
No, it's really okay.
If anybody wants to know
I promise.
how Cindy got to a HBCU, they can go to, shameless plug, My Degree is Black YouTube. She was actually one of our first, her and Sinead, one of our first stories, and her story is on there. You can check it out.
Absolutely. Greg, you brought up a point about you almost didn't go, you almost didn't make it to PV or to the PV. So Jamie and I have this conversation. Usually he's the one that brings it up when every Thursday. This story has come up
every Thursday, Greg. Most of it.
Every Thursday.
Okay.
Now, but how we have very similar stories, and we both almost ended up not at Prairie View and at OU for a minority engineering program. And they was giving out a little money, which was good, waive those out-of-state fees, give a scholarship, take you on a tour, and all of those things. And the people around us that looked like us, Black people, for me, it was Black educators, with the exception of one, which was Mr. Haywood at Forest Brook. All the rest of them were like, why would you go to HBCU? Why would you go to Prairie View? Like, you go to all of these other schools. You should be going to those schools. Like HBCUs didn't deserve me. And like, I was too good for my people, right? So Greg, to your point, I think the question that I'd like to ask all of you all, because you are in those hallways, or have been, even Sinead, even though you weren't like in the hallways as a teacher, like you've been up and down in those hallways of K through 12, or HBC, or is anybody having conversations about HBCUs? And if they are, what are those conversations like?
You should see Josh Brown's wall in his classroom.
I just finished my room today.
That's why I actually hit Josh up, because he had an Insta story with his wall full of HBCU pennants, and I was like, "Oh shoot, I need to hit Josh."
So my kids are brainwashed.
Right.
Like,
so Josh, I'm gonna pause you for a second and ask if you give your perspective, right? Like, so what happens in your school, like within your classroom, also, but just in general, like, are there enough people? Are counselors having these conversations, like those types of things as well? Because we know y'all graduates of HBCU, so of course you're going to push it, right? So you can definitely speak to that experience, but also like abroad, like, is that a conversation that's being had at your schools or schools that you visited?
I honestly think it's a campus by campus base. My first year I taught at Cashmere High School, and everybody know about Cashmere, it's in the heart of the hood, but we was trying to push them kids, and it was mostly PVTSU staff. So they saw our rivalry, but our relationships as well. We had that family relationship, and we came down to Labor Day Classic. The kids like, what y'all so excited about? I'm like, hey, we went to school there, and they won't even wear a Cashmere t-shirt, But then it changed when I taught in Aldine for a year. It was all about that school. It wasn't about where you came from, what you had going on. It was about that school, Now where I'm at, we have a family system where we kind of promote college. We're a national demonstration school for AVID. So if you know anything about the AVID program, it's real big on college. So me being an AVID elective teacher, I took 6 field trips to colleges this year. And that was exposing my students to different ones. And we hit TSU and we hit PV. Of course, I was brainwashing them from the start. But I think the conversation is limited based off of what school you're at. So if it comes from the top where your administration is big on it, then yeah, sure. If you got a lot of alumni there, sure. But if not, you may not get that conversation. So those students are kind of in that bubble of everybody wants to go to LSU. Why? Because they won the championship for football. So it's kind of what the kids are relating to at the time, what they see on social media, what they see on ESPN. That's why they're picking their colleges. or that's why they're interested in their colleges. So me personally, yeah, we're having a conversation. You know, you're gonna see my room decorated. I even got subliminal messages like all my HBCU pennants are big, all my other college pennants, the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten, whatever, they're small. You know, so I'm showing you other options from day one. And that's just kind of how it is, because you may talk to a different teacher who's going to only promote SFA or whatever school they went to, or everybody wants to go to UT because their teacher went to UT. But kids are easily influenced. So I say if any conversation is to be had, they're going to listen.
Cool.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Sydney. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Last time. Go ahead. What you got for us?
Who, me?
Me? I definitely think that there's not enough conversation about HBCUs. There's not a big HBCU presence on, I can only speak for my high school campus. We often have, college fairs and are taking kids to college fairs and things like that. And this was the first year that we took kids to an HBCU college fair. And I helped organize that and get kids there just because I think it's important. We hear all the conversations about UT, A&M, Texas A&M, LSU, SFA, Sam Houston. That's really the gist of the main schools we hear about on our campus. And so I definitely took it upon myself to start trying to push that, but also getting the word out there, because I also recognize a lot of kids, unfortunately, don't even know what an HBCU is. And so it really starts there. But I think there's definitely a lack of exposure and a lack of conversation, not just at the school level, but even when you get to the level of having these college fairs. I think this HBCU college fair is fairly new too, which is just craziness to me. So I think it could use a little push for sure.
Absolutely.
It's funny that Sydney brought up the HBCU college fair. She actually invited My Degree is Black there last year, and we went, and it was a great time there, great panels. And it's funny because it was about 13 people there from HBCUs accomplished, speaking about their experiences, and a guy in the audience still raised his hand, and he's like, he said something like you, Greg. He's like, I graduated, I'm in the top of my class, but will I still get the same opportunities if I go to HBCU? And it's like that narrative of, and like I said, we never talk down other universities. Like, we believe in other prestigious universities. But the thing is, we are too. And that's our biggest thing, is that people don't believe that. So it's like, almost, if you're in the top 5%, then don't think about an HBCU, right? And so we have to tell him, yes, not only will you have the same opportunities, you might actually be able to go to that PWI that you want to go to for free for grad school, because you end up not paying as much for this HBCU. You got the great experience, the great culture, and now these, like Josh said, the PV was looking for him, then these PWIs start looking for you, because they got to fill a quota too for grad school, and they paying. I had 3 full rides for grad school. I don't need enough school. I was done.
Yeah, I was going to say, to agree with Sydney, the conversation is they're not having the conversation enough. And it's getting to the point at some schools where they box kids in categories, right? And they tell kids, hey, look, you have a 4.2 GPA, 4.3, because, they have this 5-point scale. They say you have a 30 or 28 on your ACT. These schools don't even look at them. Don't even look at these schools right here. These schools are beneath you. You need to. Now you can go to these schools and they'll give you money in X, Y, and Z. And it's I'm just being transparent and being honest. That's the way it goes. A lot of times they have, what do they call them? For some schools, they are they have a reach. These schools are your reach schools, right? Mm-hmm. So let's just say you have a 2.5. Don't look at Rice. Those are reach schools. You can't get there, but also, they're well, let's work on this, because it's also, you got your sophomore, you got a 2.5, you still have a little time. Maybe you have 2.5 semesters to really get yourself, get your GPA up, take the ACT again. Let's get your scores up. You can get more money. You can get into this school when you apply your senior year. And a lot of times they won't even like when they're bringing colleges to the campus, they don't bring HBCUs to the campus. Like it's schools coming down from Florida. You got Florida State coming. You got, North Carolina coming. You got Duke coming. Just to be honest, our last two Victorians got free rides to Duke, Black. But like they wouldn't like allow them to even like don't even apply to Prairie View. Don't apply to Howard. Don't apply to you're gonna go here because in their eyes it makes the school look better when you apply to these prestigious PWIs. And like you said, Jamie, it's no knock on those schools, but I just get tired of the narrative being what it is when you look at statistics from African Americans, 70% of positions that are Black come from HBCUs. 50% of engineers that are Black come from HBCUs. Like when you look at and the thing is, another thing that like the conversation that we don't have is only 23% of African Americans that go to college go to HBCUs. Like these are that need to be had.
We're gonna start a campaign. If you post I'm gonna start it. I'm petty. I'm speaking for myself, not my degree is Black. But when you post a picture of you or your kid going to any other school except for HBCU, I'm gonna report it to Facebook. I don't care about your kid getting to no Harvard or no Purdue or no Texas A&M. If it ain't an HBCU, I'm reporting the picture. I just want to know that.
I know you're joking, but like I'm excited for that. I'm excited for that kid that gets into Harvard, right? Like I'm excited. My biggest thing is I just don't like the narrative being that opportunity doesn't exist if you get your degree is Black. And your degree is from an HBCU, and that's not true. When how many of the 19 judges that we just had elected a couple years ago came from HBCU?
We just had them on the show. We had 3 of them on the show last week, and all 3 of them.
One of them was my high school classmate.
Yeah,
yeah, man. So it's I just hate that stigma being attached to HBCUs.
Yeah.
But I want to ask another icebreaker question real quick. I know we running out of time, but just real quick. And this is actually not really a funny one. It's kind of serious, but do you remember what grade your first Black teacher was in? And then to follow that up, do you remember what grade your first Black male teacher was in and it wasn't a coach?
I think my first Black teacher, it was very early. I'd say like kindergarten, first grade, somewhere in there. Her name was Miss Carroll. And my first Black male teacher was 4th grade. His name was, it was either 3rd or 4th grade. I cannot remember his name though, but it was very early on. But he was like my only Black male teacher for a long time.
Gotcha.
Until I think maybe senior year of high school.
Cool. Yeah, my first Black teacher was really early on. I definitely remember Miss Ewing. Miss Ewing was my 3rd grade teacher. She was an opera singer, so I remember like going to the opera. That was my first experience going to the opera. We watched the Phantom of the Opera, and I remember because she made us speak in perfect English. Like I remember this so vividly, y'all. We were reading out loud in class, and she said, it got to a point in the book where the word was asked, ASKED, and I kept saying he asked his mama, and she said he did what to his mother? I said he asked his mama. She said he killed his mama. I said no, she asked. And the word is asked, and she made me go outside for 10 minutes and practice asked. And so I know how to say asked now. That was 3rd grade. I can't remember having a Black male teacher. I mean, besides, Mr. Reed, who was the band teacher. But I don't remember having Black male teachers.
Okay. Cool.
I think my first Black teacher was probably like daycare, pre-K. I don't know. I was in private school till I was like 3rd grade, so I'm sure Miss Darlene. I don't even know. We called her Miss Darlene. That wasn't even her last name. But my first black male that I can that I know made a difference, I guess. I'm pretty sure he was probably the first, was T. Grant Malone, and we still tight to this day. We frat brothers.
What grade?
That was 7th grade.
Okay.
And he saw the potential in me, made me a leader. Started a club called Distinguished Gentlemen. We was out there stepping, talking about DG, too cold, DG the black and gold. Didn't know that was alpha stuff. But after that, like I created that legacy because I actually started Distinguished Gentlemen at my school. So I owe a lot to him. You know, he was that teacher that was he was a history teacher, so he wasn't a coach, but he was that teacher that, you know, when I got in trouble, they would send me to him because they knew he was like the sponsor of the Distinguished Gentleman, and he would pull his paddle out because back then it was still okay to paddle, and he would hit the bottom of his shoe like 3 times, and everybody was in the other room like, ooh, and he was like, nah, sit there for 2 minutes and act like you crying, and I'm like,
you're a real one.
We boys, you know. So yeah, man. He in the Houston area too. So, but yeah, that was definitely my first male, probably around 7th grade, middle school. That wasn't a coach.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, for me, it actually was kindergarten. Believe it or not, Mr. Hall.
Wow.
Mr. Hall was my kindergarten teacher, and he was a black guy. He taught us Spanish in kindergarten. He would like, he didn't stick to any curriculum. I mean, later on that he did what he wanted to do. Like, he taught us our ABCs backwards, and I'm like, why? You know, ZYXWB, and I'm like, why are we doing this? I didn't get another male teacher. To your point, I didn't get another male teacher until 6th grade. Mr. Francis, who also taught me how to play chess. He was my 6th grade math teacher, and he was the chess coach as well. And so.
Wow. And man, I appreciate you throwing those comments in there, John. I seen a couple come up, but actually, that's one thing I struggled with. I called Josh about 2 years ago. I was like, bro, I think I need to go into the classroom, not because I really want to, just because representation matters, right? And so now, Greg trying to give him the class. I'm like, I just want to tutor, bro.
I had a math job for him, guys. I'm like, come on, I got you.
But I seen that question on social media the other day, and I would say majority of those who answered were they didn't see theirs until a HBCU, and I was like, wow, like it's crazy. So how do we expect HBCUs to even get advocated for if there aren't anybody that's going back, even if it's for a short time? Like, hey, I'm just gonna go here, like doing a rotation, right? Like, this is my career. I'm gonna go do a rotation and go teach. And I know a couple of friends who were in engineering that went to go teach like robotics or something for a couple of years, and then went back to engineering, and they loved it. They just like, I couldn't get with the lifestyle as far as financially, so they switched back.
Jamie, you know, I was thinking. Jocelyn Coates made a comment, said most black male teachers are immediately snatched out of the classroom and encouraged to become administrators. And I've heard that saying a lot. Well, I've seen it more than once. Well, I should say it like that, because I mean, how do you really quantify a lot? But it made me think about how important creativity and identity and understanding and socialization and all of those things happen in these really, really young formative years. So you're thinking elementary school, right? And so most people are saying that they had their first black male teacher in middle school, high school, right? Like in those times, like it's more guidance and discipline, right? And so like the narratives that are being perpetuated about black men, even in education, whether that's intentional or unintentional, but what that could look like, right? The difference between having a black man sit down with a sheet of paper coloring with you, right, in elementary school, or playing in the little balloon or the big that big parachute thing, right? Like doing those types of things with you or field days with you versus somebody in a classroom at ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and what that interaction looks like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. I know I have one question too, to kind of go back to now switching gears and going back to school and the state of education, and then also mixing it in with the HBCU. Tell us how, I mean, these are times like Sydney, you first said that there's no right answer. Everybody's trying to figure it out. But I believe that you guys are still prepared, if that makes any sense. Like, and because I know each and every one of you. And so can you guys tell us how the HBCU experience has possibly prepared you for a time like this? Because I see you all as resilient even before COVID. But I do know that some people, I've heard people talk, parents and teachers and administrators talking about like they're breaking out in hives, they're so stressed out and all these things. How are you guys coping, and how did the HBCU prepare you for, like I said, times like these?
Oh, go ahead. We always back and forth. It's your turn now.
We keep doing the same thing. Go ahead, Sydney. You always first, baby.
My own personal experience definitely taught me that I have to be prepared for anything and everything, and also it taught me flexibility. And so how am I coping with this? I'll get back to you on that. It's definitely a daily thing because I do have my days and moments where I'm more freaked out than others. And then some days I'm like, well, whatever is meant to happen is going to happen. But as far as how my experience has prepared me for what's to come in terms of, you know, what this school year is going to look like, I definitely say it has prepared me to just stay ready and also to be flexible and understand that sometimes even the people that are the head honchos don't even know what the next step is. And so really being okay with taking things day by day and understanding I'm not going to have control and it's going to look way different than it ever has before. So that's kind of how my experience prepared me.
You said something, Jamie, and that was the first word that came to my mind. You know, going to HBCU and teaching you how to be resilient. You know, you can't really control everything that happens to you, but how you respond, and you know, is what being resilient is all about. And I think that like once you know how to be resilient and how to respond, you find innovative ways to attack whatever the issue is. And I think as educators, like especially when you're at a deficit of resources, you have to do whatever, you know, in your that's tangible that you have to actually try to still accomplish the same goal. So it's like your method for accomplishing the goal might have to change, but the goal doesn't change. And the goal is to try to educate the kids the best way you can with what you have. So I think that for me, you know, resilience is the first thing that came to mind.
For me, I mean, going to HBCU taught life lessons, not just education and academics, but life lessons. Have you ever stood in a financial aid line? Like, have you ever been stressed out because you've been dropped from class? Like, you learn how to push through. A Shalia Reed quote: "Stay ready, so you never have to get ready." You know, and that's kind of like I took that, you know, and always it just stayed with me. You know, make sure that you're ready. Right now, I'm prepared for everything and nothing at the same time because I don't know what school is going to look like. I don't know what the in-class face-to-face or virtual is going to look like, but I'm ready for everything. So that's just kind of how it is. And thank God for PALS and CAB and all those student organizations, SGA. You know, you learn how to get through things, you know, which we didn't see at that time. Like, I didn't know that I was going to be, you know, a great motivational speaker and stuff like that. But because I had to stand in front of pals and do it, or because I had to host an event and do it, it gave me those leadership skills. It gave me that confidence. Just little things that we didn't see when we were younger going through it at the HBCU. It shows up now, you know, and I'm like, dang, I learned that at PV. You know, I learned how to manage my time. You know, I learned how to push through, get all my work done, go to the library and study instead of going to my dorm room. Because if I go to my dorm room, I'm gonna go to sleep. Like those little life lessons, you know, about time management and being responsible and not freaking out if you get dropped from a class. Like, yeah, time's gonna get hard, but it's like he said, how you react to them, how you push through them. So I definitely learned all of those lessons at PV. I've been dropped. I've been from the good grades dean list kid to the academic probation kid. Like I learned all those lessons, you know. And did I graduate in 4 years? No, but I graduated, you know. And that's just kind of how it is. You got to push through. And so that's just what I'm doing now as an adult, as a Black educator. I'm just pushing through whatever the district roll out. Literally, it has changed 3 times this week. I'm just pushing through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
For me, I've learned just stick-to-itiveness and how to be resourceful. So the goal is to get the kids, to get my boys to a place to where, you know, the grades are good, test scores are great, and they're finishing for my oldest graduating this year. And that's by any means necessary. Like I knew I had to come out of TSU by any means necessary. That was the goal. So we're gonna find a way. We're gonna find the resources, whether that's human capital, whether that's financial, like whatever it takes, is what we're gonna do. And so I like what Josh said, like prepared for everything and nothing all at the same time. But I know that there's a way to navigate this. And I have a strong enough village with educators that I know, with people in the community as far as like self-care and tutors and all of those things that as a parent I may not understand, but I can pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, this is what we're dealing with. Can you help? And I found people to be, you know, HBCUs, the goal is to get you to graduate. And so everybody is there to make sure that happens for you. And so we're prepared. We are prepared, very prepared. I will call Damien, Sydney, Josh, Gregory, Jay. Like my oldest son is doing SAT prep right now with one of his mentors. He and his wife are both in education, his former teachers. But every day he goes over there for an hour just to do Khan Academy SAT prep. And they were like, oh, he can come over every day. You know, we're all at home. Oh, okay, great. Like I will pick up the phone and call. I will send an email because somebody knows how to get something done. And I think that's one of the things that parents are gonna have to, like, that's what we gotta do.
Yeah. And you bring up something that the networking, and I'm not saying it doesn't, again, I can only speak from what I experienced. And networking, not only at your own HBCU, but through other HBCUs. So it's like, it's your first fraternity, sorority, like beyond anything. Like, and people, when they find out you went to a HBCU, they're willing to break their back for you to get, as long as you treat them right with respect, like they literally like do things for you. You're like, do you even know me? And so I say all that to say is because John likes to make sure that we end with an action, you know, that we have to take an action. We have a lot of HBCU alumnus that are tuned in. We have students and people that are going to watch later. Is there anything that, when we talked about the state of Black education, what can HBCU alumni be doing to pour back in to education? What would you say? What would you guys say that the action is? Just something quick, but at the same time that we need to be intentional about.
Did you mean the HBCU itself or the HBCU alumni?
Alumni.
Yeah, we gotta do better at giving back. My nonprofit organization that I have, that's what everything is about. Trying to find ways. Over the last 4 years, I've been giving, you know, thousands of dollars. You know, we've been fortunate with the help of people who've been, you know, donating to the organization, giving scholarships to kids. You know, our universities are underfunded as well. I mean, and I'm pretty sure everybody up here knows that. And like if everybody just gave a month, just imagine what all of the alumni at all of the different HBCUs, and they just gave $10 a month to their university, you know, where we could be, how much better we could be. I don't want to get into the data about that, how, alumni, don't give back, but we show up to homecoming, right? And that, for me, that's the action that I think needs to happen. Like, put your money where your mouth is. It's the best university. You say it's the top-notch university. Let's pour back into it. I'm not saying that everybody got to give thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars to these institutions, but like, if a lot of people do a little bit, we can accomplish a lot. I think that's the action that we need to take.
Cool. Anybody else got anything?
He took the words right out of my mouth. I think that's the biggest issue right now is pouring back into your schools. I definitely think that is putting your money where your mouth is, like he said. I mean, that just really hit the nail on the head for me.
Cool.
So for me, I know a lot of younger alumni who may not be, financially stable to just give as much as they want to. But one thing that is free is time. Your time, your effort. You find a Title I school in your area and go read books or go to their PTA meetings. That stuff is free. It's nothing to get on the school website, the district website, do a background check. Once you get cleared from your background check, you can go to any school in that district and volunteer your time. So it doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. Find those schools that need those extra mentors, those extra tutors. If you can give one day a month, that's doing better than nothing, So just give your time, give your effort, give your attention. The fraternities, the sororities, they're doing it. They could be doing more. The HBCUs are doing it. They can be doing more, but just give some time.
Awesome, Josh. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. Being visible in the schools is very important. I think somebody mentioned representation. I think the kids have to see, like they have to know that there are Black professionals who went to HBCUs who are doing amazing things. Oh, and they came to my school today, right? I think like that's one of the best billboards, one of the best recruitment tools that you can use is for alumni to go to high schools. And it doesn't have to be anything that's extravagant, but going to the classroom and maybe tutoring or coming and bringing pizza for lunch or sponsoring a field day. And the thing is, the company that you work for will typically match that, right? So if you're taking off for a couple of hours, they will typically match that with volunteer hours, and sometimes they match it monetarily. So taking one of those schools in your neighborhood that you drive by every day and saying, you know what, on Mondays, I am going to be intentional about allowing these kids to see me, whether that's being a hall monitor or I'm going to help, unload the buses every day, but being visible with your HBCU t-shirt on, right?
Yeah.
So kids can ask you, what school is that? Who is that? Where is that? No, I've never heard of that. Like the kids need to see this. That's like the kids, we have to be more visible. Yeah. We're visible to each other, but there is a whole generation of kids who are growing up, they didn't see a different world. They didn't see all those
Living Single, Martin, all of those that continued to rep our universities. Yeah,
they didn't see that, So and we just said that the schools are not taking them to these universities when they do college tours. So they got it. We are the representation of our schools.
Right. So speaking of representation and what you represent, wow, I want to ask two people on here because that I know at least they have some representation. They have products, they bring themselves to the public. As I'm doing that, John, can you look in the comments, make sure there's anything that we might not need to hit before we close? But Shanette, since you just finished, can you tell us a little bit about Africa on My Back? And then after that, we want to get with Greg and let him tell us about what he's doing as well. Let's make sure that we let the people know. There's no need for you guys to be on here. We don't let the people know who you are and what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Shanette. Well, we already know that. My company is Africa on My Back. We are a socially conscious fashion brand that provides study abroad opportunities for brilliant Black boys all through the sale of our handcrafted African print backpacks that are all made in Ghana, West Africa, our backpacks, bags, and accessories. This past March, we were fortunate enough to roll with 14 people to Ghana, 7 of them being students from Houston, Texas. So you can find us at www.africaonmyback.com. We are at Africa on My Back on all social media platforms. And we love your support. We're not sure when the next time we're going to travel. But yeah, we're planning. We're getting everything ready.
Awesome. And I represent PB and I represent the North Shore Senior High School along with Miss Cindy Williams. And when Shanette did her premiere of the Black Panther, the legend, Mr. Brian Allen, was able to bring some boys out there when you had sold out a whole theater of Black and brown boys to watch Black Panther. So thank you for your time and your money and what you're doing. You're not just selling products just to make profit. We want you to get back, but you are making a difference in the community as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Webb, what you got going on, brother?
A few things, but the biggest thing I have going on right now.
Give us your elevator pitch. Don't give us the few things. No, I'm the messing with you.
He was serious.
No. I meant like as far as like the products and what the product, the money is going toward. I'm actually wearing one of the shirts right now, an apparel line. It's an Inspire line, just to inspire people all over the world. But the thing that I'm most proud about is the books that I've been able to pen. One being I'm College Bound. This book is near and dear to me because it tells the story of a kid whose parents, African American kid whose parents take him on a HBCU tour. And the content of the book is basically the rich history of 16 of the HBCUs and tells the history of those schools. And so I think that one of the questions that you had earlier was at what point were you introduced to it? And so my goal with the book is to do 2 things. One, introduce our youth to HBCUs at an earlier age, but 2, actually continue to raise funds to send kids to HBCUs. So to be honest, when I first started my nonprofit and started the scholarship, it didn't matter. Now it's more of a emphasis on the scholarship going to kids with HBCUs. One of the recipients this year is going to Howard. I'm excited about that. She actually got her check last week, and the other 2 recipients are going to HBCUs as well. And so proceeds from the book go to help get kids to college. I'm an advocate of college, and now while I don't believe that it's the only pathway to success, I do believe that it's one that I do want more kids to explore. And so www.gregorywebb.com, and you can find whether it's shirts, books, it doesn't matter. The proceeds go toward that. So continuing to help fund scholarships for our African American kids. So yeah.
Awesome. Jay, so I looked through. Oh, my bad. Go ahead, Josh.
I don't sell nothing.
Oh, I thought Jamie was you sell that hope in class.
Yeah.
I'm dealing hope every day.
Yeah,
I'm dealing hope.
Yeah, it's
You
good.
know what I'm saying? No, I was gonna say. So I kind of went back through the comments. There's one. I'm gonna ask that everybody we stay off after we finish this live broadcast. We're about to end. Everybody stay on, and we address this question, and then I will make that recording available for everyone. But Chris Moultrie made a post, and this kind of goes back to some conversations we had last Thursday. I think it was last Thursday. Oh yeah, with the judges, I think, or it was the week before, about Black churches, HBCUs, the levels of responsibility for Black America. What does that look like? I know I often say, Jimmy and I both, about how HBCUs house so much of Black history. And I would say the 2 anchors in Black America that house Black history are Black churches and Black HBCUs. But our educational institutions live longer. And so when the church closes, that history is now gone. And so like, to his point, you know, I think Black churches need to be more involved with helping the recruitment of HBCUs. Like, we'll come back to that. So I just wanted to make sure that we posted that, but we'll definitely get the answers and perspectives of the panel and everybody here, and then we'll have that available for y'all later.
Cool. Well, thanks, Chris, for that question. Like I said, we'll address it in the after show. It'll be recorded, then we'll post it on our social media pages. So look out for that, my brother. Not only Chris, man, so many people, Jocelyn, Imani. I've seen so many people on here, LeWebster, Tori. Thank you guys for your commentary. Thank you for your questions. It was so helpful. We appreciate just having this living room conversation. But all good things have to come to an end. So it is the end. This is the end. Nobody, y'all don't know this. Okay. So I was waiting for a 3-part harmony, but it didn't happen. So with that,
I don't know that one, brother.
With that, my name is Jamie Latin Sims. I am a Prairie View A&M University alumnus. I am a tutor. I'm an engineer, and I love the people that we have on this show, dealing hope, and my degree is Black.
My name is J. Albert Nichols. You can get this Black boy joy or these Black boy hands. And my degree is Black.
My name is Sydney Williams. I'm an Spelman alumna with a degree in psychology. I'm a dope, carefree, proud, free-thinking woman, and my degree is Black.
Sydney, come on, Sydney. My name is Shanette Prince. I'm a graduate of Texas Southern University and Florida A&M University. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm a mother to 2 brilliant Black boys. I'm a global change maker, and my degree is Black.
My name is Joshua Grimes. I am a graduate of the Prairie View A&M University with a degree in mathematics. I am a motivator, educator, innovator, all of the above, and my degree is Black.
My name is Gregory Webb. I'm a graduate of Prairie View A&M University, and I am an educator, entrepreneur, and motivator, and my degree is Black.